I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Taneytown for the month of August. I ask Councilman Frazier to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just get a kickstart. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. All the council members are present and accounted for. Our first order of business is the review of the minutes for July 8th, July 13th regular meetings, and some corrections that were made to the July 13th meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the...
I'd like to make a correction,
minutes?
if I could, for time for corrections. On the July the 8th meeting, adoption of the floodwater management on the first page, it implies that I met personally with Tom Devilbiss. I did not. I was privy to the meetings, but a personal meeting occurred by one of my supporters. Tom met with our people, and I didn't personally meet with him. So a suggestion, it's not so that I met Commissioner Frazier's that after meeting with Tom Devilbiss implies that I was in that meeting. I was not in that meeting. I just privy to what he said about the ordinance, and that's why I was okay and comfortable to vote for it.
Okay, I'll change that.
Okay? And then I have one more back here. On the 7:13 minutes, the last paragraph, I seconded the motion to form the committee on the water and sewer review. It was carried on a motion 5-1, and my second is omitted from the minutes there. I seconded that. The motion was made by Brad and seconded by me to form a committee, a water committee.
Councilman Frazier, I believe it does say that on the very last line. It reads on mine, second by Frazier, carried 5 to...
Well, you must have an amended copy. I don't have it. So I've marked up my notes here.
The original. Where are you? What page are you on?
With that correction.
There's been an additional amendment made to the July 8th
And then
minutes.
on the last page of those minutes, I voted no to adjourn the meeting, and I explained my vote saying it was the council's job to act on water and sewer policies, not a subcommittee's job to do so. So the vote was not 5-0 to adjourn. I voted against adjourning the meeting because I didn't think that we did our job at the last meeting. So the vote was 4-1 to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a motion to accept the amendments as presented tonight? First of all, let's do that.
I'll make a motion to accept
Is
them.
there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I think I would like Claire to check the tape. What Mr. Frazier actually said, because I believe he did say he met with Mr. Devilbiss. I'm not sure, but because I remember saying it aggravated me that he questioned Mr. Gullo's knowledge.
Well, I didn't question Mr. Gullo's knowledge.
Well, yes, you did when you went behind his back.
No, I did not do that. Mr. Devilbiss is the person who wrote this ordinance, and he's the county person in charge of it. And if you want to know how you're voting on the council, you talk to the person who did that, and I wanted to know about that. And so we met with that. I've been married for 31 years. My wife has a meeting with the council. We partner pretty good together. There's an old song that says, stand by my woman, man.
All right, I guess probably what I need to do, because we have these,
and if
have
she's
these
met
late
with him,
corrections.
and we got together and talked about it, and I talked to him on the phone, it implies that I met personally with him, and it's an error that I did not meet personally with him.
We currently have different recollection of what happened. So why don't I do this? Why don't I take each set of minutes separately, as amended and as presented, and we'll vote that way. First, I'll take the July the 8th minutes as presented. Would anybody like to make the motion to approve the July 8th meeting as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussions?
So, Mayor, you're talking about the minutes before Councilman Frazier's amendment?
Right.
That's correct.
As presented.
I'm going to take them in two. If this motion fails, then we'll consider the amended motion. If this motion passes, we'll pass
What's,
them as
a
presented.
point of clarity, Mr. Mayor, what are you voting on? A motion's been made, there's a motion already made and seconded to approve both the minutes on, as they presented. Already on the table. I made a motion to
Then
approve.
you
it.
amended the minutes.
So I call the question.
So the
that we'd
question is,
approve the two
all right,
minutes
the
with the
question is,
additions and
it's been
corrections
moved
that I
and
made.
seconded, we approve the minutes of July 8th and July 13th as presented. That's what's
See-
been moved and presented.
Councilman Frazier, when you offered the amendments, that then gave us the ability to then break them up and vote on them separately.
Well, I know
Whether
that
we
he
accept
said
the-
that, but there was already a motion to second on the
Well-
table. That's what I said.
Well, I understand that. But since you then offered amendments after that motion was on the table,
And the motion is as amended, with my amendments in them. Is that correct?
We didn't know what the amendments were.
I just told you what they were. Let's go back and
But
start
there's
from the
different
beginning of the meeting.
recollections. Huh?
If you don't know what I said, the first page of the minutes,
All right. I'm going to
I
settle
did
this
not
right now,
meet personally-
regardless of the way you perceive it. This is what we're going to do. We're going to vote on July 8th minutes as presented and July 8th minutes as amended, if the first one fails. Then we'll vote on July 13th minutes as amended,
I
as
didn't
presented.
withdraw my
and then
motion to
we'll
approve
vote
both
on
the minutes as
July 13th
approved.
minutes as amended.
Mr. Mayor?
We just received these minutes 2 minutes ago. Apparently, there is differences in recollection of what happened during these meetings. Because you say that it's so, doesn't make it so. It's your recollection versus someone else's recollection.
No, I just wanted to
So
clarify.
we have
that
to
the
decide
minutes would
whether the
be
majority
accurate
remembers it
instead of
your way,
inaccurate.
whether the majority remembers it some other way. Majority rules.
Mr. Mayor? It seems that there's only contention on the one issue about Councilman Frazier speaking to Mr. Devilvis.
No, it says I met with him. I spoke with him. I didn't meet with him.
I know, and then Mr. Councilman Zambetti was
There
saying...
was a meeting.
That maybe we need to check the record about specifically what was said. Could we take each of Councilman Frazier's amendments one at a time? Is that possible? That way, the only one that's the one that there's contention over is the one that maybe we could go back and look at the record on.
I made a motion to approve these if you'll accept my additions, corrections to the minutes, and that's on the table. Who seconded it?
There's a motion on the table to move the minutes of January.
No, there's not.
July
There's my
8th,
motion
July
to approve the
13th as
minutes
presented.
as amended is on the table.
Well, we amended the 13th on Wednesday night. You again amended them tonight, but no one's had a chance to discuss or think about those amendments. So they could be accurate or they could not be accurate, depending on what the majority feels.
If you want the minutes to reflect what is the truth, you would just accept the amendments that I was involved in as corrected. I seconded the motion to form the council. It's not written here.
It's the truth, is
And
how
then-
you
and then-
recall it
and then
or how somebody
lastly,
else recalls it.
I voted against adjournment and told you why. And I made a motion following
All those in
that.
favor of approving the July 8th meeting minutes as presented, say aye. Those opposed?
I'm opposed to approve them because you didn't include my correction that I did not have a personal meeting with Tom Devlin.
Just a minute. Now I'm going to entertain a motion to approve the July 8th minutes as amended this evening. Is there a motion to approve the July 8th minutes as amended?
I'll move that we approve them.
Is there a second?
I'll second it to bring it up for discussion.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, if there is there a way that we can go back and check specifically what Councilman said about the meeting with Mr. Devilvis? Because that seems to be, again, the only point of contention.
I guess we could ask our clerk if she has
Well,
notes.
I know whether I
that
met
are
with the
to
person or not.
Contrary, is there something you missed, Clara? Or
You guys are ridiculous. That's just
Recorded in
ridiculous.
thought
That's
you
not
heard
the point
them?
of question. The point of question is what you said, not what you did.
I mean, I do the minutes based on the recording, but if I miss something, I can listen to the recording again and see what the
point is, it really makes little or no difference whether we approve them as amended or not amended. It's simply the gratification of Councilman Frazier's
No, I want it to be
ego, I guess.
accurate. I want the minutes
So
to be
the only
accurate
thing
about
that
what
I'm
actually
saying
happened.
is, we have a motion on the table to approve
Not
the July
gratification.
8th minutes as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye, this includes
Opposed,
my
like sign, so
amendment.
carried. Next, we have the July 13th minutes as presented. Is there anyone like to make a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I would like to ask that the second that I put in that for the creation of the Water Sewer Committee be included in the last paragraph, just under unfinished business. And then finally, that I voted no on adjournment, and then I explained my vote that I didn't believe the council had done their job to look at the proposals we done, so and delegated to a subcommittee.
Thank you for that explanation. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
No, if we're voting on without my corrections, I vote no.
All right, those who say no, raise your hand. Those who say aye, raise your hand. It's 3-2, carries.
Well, the record
minutes
shows
as
that the minutes are lying.
We'll move on
That's
to
not what happened.
resolutions, ordinances, and agreements. We have the adoption of Resolution 2015-08, water allocation for the month of August. Anyone care to make a motion to approve Resolution 2015-08?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So carried. Next, we have the approval of the Developers' Rights and Responsibilities Agreement as amendment for Meadowbrook, Section 4. And we discussed this on Wednesday night. We had a public hearing, and there were no public comments. Would anyone care to make a motion to approve the Developers' Rights and Responsibilities Agreement amendment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. So carried. Next, we have the city manager's report. Henry, would you have anything in addition to what we presented Wednesday night?
I do. If you recall, the progress meeting for the ENR upgrade had not occurred at that time. Since then, it has occurred, and the report is that 58% of the construction is completed with 59% of the money expended, which that's not really, that's pretty good being within that close range, but it does mean we're slightly over budget. The other thing was the other Wednesday night, there was a question of grass in the sidewalks. And I don't know if anybody's noted, but that's already been taken care of. The Public Works Director and myself went out and looked at the houses on Grand Drive that have the water shut off, and there is no hoses running between houses, unless there's something else that we don't see or know. So that should resolve that issue. And one of the other things that's sort of come up is the debt service. And so what I asked the treasurer to do is put together a report for me that basically talks about the debt service for the next 5 years. If you recall, in part of our borrowing, what we did was we borrowed to pay off one of our debts. And what that did was it leveled out the amount of payment back for a number of years. Here it is. And if you recall, this is from our audit, not last year, maybe it was last year. But in any event, what it showed was that our debt service for 15 went to 1.3 million, and then in 16 would go to 1.5, almost 1.6, and stay at that number for several years. By doing what we did with the debt service, we leveled it out. And what that result is that we have a debt service of $1.1 million of principal and interest per year that we have to pay. The next time any one of this debts fall off and we get paid will be in, it's so small I have to kind of really look at this thing. Oh, here it is. It matures on 2/1/2019. And the longest debt service that we have to pay out is, none of us will be here, and that matures in June 28th of 2052. So that's what answers some of the questions as far as our debt service.
Thank you.
And the total,
Total what? Oh, the grand total is $16 million.
Anything else, Henry?
That's all I have.
Any questions for Henry?
yeah, I got one. Henry, you know how many actual water shut-offs we have?
Yeah, I do. I get the... Well, well, I do have it from the last quarter. I don't have it for this quarter because that'll occur,
Right, but I mean,
right.
Anybody have any questions on the departmental reports?
wait a minute.
We're still,
Oh, I'm sorry. Still you're looking, I'm sorry. I thought you said you didn't have it.
What does DNR improvement stand for?
Wait a second.
$41. But most of those that are shut off are due to primarily either tax sales, foreclosures, or abandonment. And we have one on there that was shut off because it was a, yeah, that was on Grand Drive, that was a rental. But next month, I probably can give you a better number for what we did this quarter here.
Henry, when you get that number, can you try to break it down on vacant houses,
Yeah. I got
most
it.
likely? Right.
That's
When you
how I
bring
have
us that number next month, if you can have that. Thank you.
Ms. Cook, did you have a question?
Yes, what does DNR improvement stand for?
Department of Natural Resources.
Okay,
No,
No?
not with respect to that.
Is that DNR or ENR?
I don't know, it sounded like DNR. You read it at the beginning of your report.
Oh, it's probably ENR then.
Okay, thank you.
And,
ENR is enhanced nutrient removal, right?
it's nutrient, the NR stands for nutrient removal. I can't recall what the E stands for.
Enhanced.
Enhanced, yeah.
That means we have to take more of the nutrients out of the wastewater coming out of the sewer treatment plant than we are doing now. And that's because MDE said, if you want to process, do it now, or don't do it, we'll send the mayor to jail. So we opted to do it.
And the one I mentioned that we're just getting ready to finish paying for in 2016 is, it was a 20-year loan, and it was for the wastewater treatment BNR upgrade. So now we've got BNR we're paying for and ENR we're paying for.
Anyone else have any questions for Henry? Any question on the departmental reports?
No, sir.
Let's move into the legal report. Jay, do you have anything additional for us?
I'd like to give you an update on the 3 issues I brought up last week. Remember, the theme was leverage, and so as far as the Dollar General letter of credit, as I followed up, I did receive the original release, the stormwater management agreement, so I told you we were getting it. We actually have the original, so that's taken care of. The Bentley pool issue that I was talking to you about, that is now a little more back burner because they covered the pool and they've done things based on what we were going to do to them. So it's questionable whether or not we still have the same impetus to move forward. We might not, but I haven't gotten with the code enforcement officer to find out. The pool was the biggest driver, was the one that we could remedy the most, and the rest were all the cars on the train that would come with it. So we have to reevaluate that. So we don't really need to take any more steps on that today. And then the issue with Red Tulip, that was the one that you got an email letter from me through Clara, and since it's attorney-client, my thought was it's probably not something you want to talk about in open session. So at the end of this meeting, if you want to make a motion to go into closed session for legal, we can do that, and we can talk about whatever you need to do about that. That's it. The rest are all the...
I have a question. I had several citizens tell me that the enactment of the water rate increase went into effect July 1st, but we won't see the effect of it until the next quarter bill. Is that true or untrue?
That's true. That's true. Because you
So
pay...
the water rate increase is going to come in October.
In fact, right now.
You use
You
a
won't see it
gallon...
on your bill till then.
That's correct. It went into effect July 1st, and then the first...
Because you're using that water now.
Yeah.
So as you use it, you accrue the debt to it.
I wanted clarity on that. I don't think a lot of people who were here last month realized that. And I got lots of confusing comments in the street this past month. Thank you for that answer.
Anyone else have anything else for Jay? Is there any unfinished business? Nothing. We'll move into the new business, monthly financial report. Would care to make a motion to approve the monthly financial report?
Have a good night.
Thank you. Enjoy the night.
Take it easy.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So carried. Next, we have the accounts payable report. Anyone care to make a motion to approve the accounts payable report?
So moved.
Is there any discussion?
Second.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. It's always good to have a good mayor pro tem, you know. Can't discount that enough. All right. Next, I ask for the approval of the committees that I presented to you on Wednesday. It's in your package. Would anyone care to make a motion to approve those committee appointments?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I had asked care would be taken about who was put on the committees so that we could actually get some of the items that we brought before that were tabled twice, successive meetings, actually enacted by the council. And I have been disappointed with the appointments that you've made. And I don't think anything will come out of this committee, but we're going to do our best on it. I pledge to do my best on that committee, but I was troubled with the appointments.
I welcome council input on these committee reports.
No, nobody asked me for any
In
input
fact,
on
I
it.
stated that before I announced the fact that we were going to
I
approve
talked
this
to you
tonight.
about that, too.
And no one commented one way or the other as to who should go on what committee. So, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like
I'm
sign.
going to vote no on those appointments.
All right, motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the wastewater and sewer committee appointments, although we could have done that at the same time.
I thought we just did do that.
No, if you look at the agenda, they're two separate items.
Well,
Is there a motion to approve the wastewater committee members?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
I have to vote no on that then.
Motion carries. Next, we have the release of the letter of credit for Dollar General Store. Is there a motion to release the letter of credit?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So carried. Next, we'll have council member reports, and I can't remember which end I started on last time,
You started here last
Yeah.
time, sir.
so I'll start with Angelo.
Yeah, I'd like to commend Dennis, mainly for the video job that he's done. We're now on the air, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. We're videoing all public meetings, showing them on Facebook, YouTube, and the website. And I've got more people coming up to me saying, I see you. I know who you are. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it is getting out there. I had one complaint that the video was tremendous and the sound was not. By the time I finished the complaint, Dan was able to take the recording from our system here and replace it on the video so that we now have clear video, clear audio.
Wonderful.
One heck of a good job in setting this thing up. And if you talk about meetings being open, you can't get any more open than that. Thanks, Dan.
I'll see that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Daniel is not here.
That's it.
Okay.
Don, it's your turn.
Oh, I've received a letter from Martha McCargish of 430 Red Tulip Court. In the letter, she talks about the brown paper bags that we allow to put out for yard waste, and she makes reference to some culverts at 431 and 432 that are blocked, and she says in the letter she fell twice. She's a senior citizen. She fell twice, and she's asked the town to clean up those areas, and she says here, and I don't know whether it's true or not, that she's actually circulated a petition, but nothing's been done, and she asked if I would bring that up at the council. Also, there's been a complaint from downtown merchants I met with that the people violate the crosswalk there in front of Tina's Barber Shop, and that they do that and somebody's going to get hurt. And so we'd like to see the enforcement of the stop policy when crossing the crosswalk. We have people that cross slowly, and people have almost been run over the past month, and people are concerned with me, and they've talked to me about that, and I'd like to bring that up so it's on the record. We could do that. The second complaint about downtown enforcement was that nobody's getting any parking tickets. They tell me that the tenants that live upstairs are parking up all the front spaces on the lots, and the customers can't get in during business hours. That if we get a few parking tickets, we can make the tenants park in the back of the building where they ought to park. So I would like to encourage the town to do a little better job of that. The parking meter amounts are not too high to shop in town. Only a dime will allow you to do most everything you're going to do, like you go into the bakery. But if we don't give enough parking tickets out, the people will park their cars there all day long. So those things I want to bring up during my report, because they're things that I think the town staff could react to, not to get anybody in trouble, but just to say those are things I heard this month, and I'm concerned about them and like to see the town address them.
Well, with regard to the crossing, we are in contact with State Highway already. And-
This has been an ongoing
Yeah.
process for the last several months.
And what we're asking State Highway to do is to mark the center lanes with a crosswalk warning.
There's some marking already. It could be better.
No, this is in the center lane.
Oh, okay.
But they seem to be rather reluctant to do so, because when you make the turn in either direction out of Middle Street, they're probably going to get hit. And that's the problem we had with one other intersection when we put those things in.
Is the town allowed to make changes on that road?
No,
Hey,
That's state
Don,
highway.
Don, this
they rule.
came up really before even the election. I had asked Henry to investigate this and Rick investigate this, because I had the same complaint. And I agree with you, there should be something in the crosswalk.
Wouldn't be expensive.
But the problem is, just a minute, Don. The problem is, the state highways controls those roads. We can't do that. It's not in our jurisdiction to do that. So I asked Henry and Rick to check into that to see if we could, this comes up every 2 years, I guess, and to see if we could do that. The answer came back, no, they couldn't. I've asked Henry also to give me the name of the supervisor of the State Highway Department, because I'm going to write a personal letter and say we need these things, because I agree with you 100%. But that's ongoing. It's something that we're dealing with.
We even try to get the blinking lights. When somebody steps off the curb, the lights blink.
And what was the issue with about parking? Are we parking in this lot over here?
Where? No, there's no issue. As a matter of fact, if you look up and down the street during the day, there's hardly any cars.
Okay, I didn't think we were using that lot.
Are they talking about the weekends?
That,
I've been told that 5 merchants are going out of business on Main Street. And one of the reasons these people that I talked to said that is because people park up the spots in front and they'd like to see the meters enforced with a few more parking tickets because people are parking for long periods of time. These people, it's their witness, not me. I don't live downtown.
well,
But they're saying that people park for hours and hours and not pay the meeting.
that's not true, and I've got the video to show you.
Well, just bringing concerns of citizens to the council tonight.
They're not going out of business because they can't park. No, the parking's,
Paying the water bill, that's why they're going out of business.
that's not really,
Moving on.
Anything else, Tom?
No, those are 3 constituent concerns I wanted to bring up during my time.
Diane, what do you have for us?
well, before we go off of that topic, I need to know who that is and where that is.
Yeah, I'll get that to you.
Can I have it now?
No, I don't have a copy of it, but I'll get it to you.
All right.
After the meeting today, maybe we can, because that's my only copy.
Diane, what do you have for us?
The Water and Sewer Committee met last week for the first time. We meet on Tuesdays here at 10 a.m. Meetings are, of course, open to the public, not for participation, but for observation. We have our second meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Thank you. I attended the first part of that meeting, and it seemed like we're off to a very productive start. So I'm very encouraged with what we've got here. Brad, what do you have for us?
Planning and Zoning Commission. Had a good meeting, no big decisions made this past meeting. Continue work on the comprehensive plan. And also we discussed kind of our uniform willingness to work with potential businesses coming to downtown, including the old Sheets property there. So you may hear some information in the near future of some ideas to help make that more attractive.
I encourage you in that regard. We need to make it as easy for people to locate businesses in our downtown as we possibly can. And I think Nancy and Diane are planning to attend a meeting here in the next few weeks
Yes, we are.
to look at some
21st.
ideas a couple other towns have.
Right.
We're attending a meeting in Ellicott City, and Frederick's involved. And I've-
Elkton.
Elkton, yes. So Nancy and I will be attending that meeting.
That's great. Moving forward.
Joe?
Last Thursday, I attended the first Thursday event over at Vintage Colors as an art evening. It was a very good event. It was really well attended. And the really interesting thing about it in my mind, because as everybody knows, in addition to writing, I also paint, right? Art is a really important part of my life. And to actually see an art-oriented event in this town, because there are so many talented people living here, right? To see an event that's specifically tailored to art and to culture was fantastic. And I look forward to more events like that.
Well, good. Did you get your picture taken in one of those stand-up?
No, I didn't get it.
We could put that on Facebook.
Good.
I'll have to get back over there and do that. Did you?
No, I actually thought about going over there, and I'd say, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'll make you a deal. If you do it, I'll do it. We'll do it at the
All
same
right,
time.
we'll go over there together. How
All right,
about
that's a
that?
deal.
I would do that. I would do that. Anything else, Joe?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
I have nothing particular other than I have been thinking again about the MML conference we attended at the end of June and how rewarding it was and how much I took away from that conference. And one of the sessions that I attended had to do with ethics. And this is a class that they have each year. And it's a core class in the Academy of Governmental Excellence for the University of Maryland sponsors. And I attended this, even though I've attended it in the past, because it was it occurred to me that we had just passed this new ethics ordinance a year or two ago, and there's been a lot of controversy, a lot of newsprint on some towns that refused to pass this ethics ordinance or want to water it down. And I thought to myself, well, gee whiz, that doesn't make much sense. If we're going to be held accountable to the public, there ought to be some ramifications. When I came back, I kind of investigated our city code to see how we deal with people who violate ethics laws, or if someone violated an ethics law, what we would do about that. And the answer is nothing, because there's nothing in the code that addresses that. At the meeting, I asked the question. I said, well, what now that we got an ethics law, what do we do with it? And the answer from the instructor basically was, you can do anything you want to. It's up to us to decide how to enforce the ethics law and to develop any kind of penalties or sanctions or reprimands that go along with it. And I just thought it might be prudent to have our attorney investigate some of the options that we could review in order to have an ethics law that actually has some meaning or has some value to it. And I don't know what anybody else thinks of that. Any comments that you want to make, or feel free to make. It's just a thought that I had, something I thought that would improve our overall function as city government.
And I think, do we have anything that, well, suppose somebody is found guilty of a felony. We don't have anything that we can use to get them off the council
No.
or any elected official.
I mean, I guess it's something that could be made public and part of the minutes, but I don't know that I could not find anything, and if you all know of something that I don't, I could find nothing that really addresses a fine or a penalty or a reprimand or whatever that according to what happens.
To your example, the bright lines are there. So if somebody was guilty of a felony while you're on here, you would no longer be qualified to hold office. Be just like if you moved out of town. So to hold office, you have to be a certain age, you have to reside in town for so long, and you have to have, it says language, but it means like no felony. And so just as if obviously you can't go back in age, so that's out. But if you moved out of town, you'd know you wouldn't be on the council anymore because you no longer qualify to hold that office. So the other one would be the felony. And that's easy, even though it's painful. I've dealt with that in another town because it's not when you're charged with the crime, it's when you're found guilty. I mean, it's still a pain. So the bright lines are there. The problem is a violating of the ethics code is not necessarily a crime.
Right.
And that's where the difference is that if you were charged with a crime that would be a misdemeanor that dealt with honesty, that would disqualify you. Not charged, but found guilty. But if you were charged with DUI, okay, that's a very public thing, but it doesn't deal with honesty. It's not stealing, and it's not a felony. So that wouldn't violate any of our issues. The ethics law that you have right now, as the mayor said, has really no teeth. Yeah, you can find somebody, but you have different classes of people that you have to think about. I mean, that's what I'll do for you, is that it covers the elected officials, it covers the candidates, it covers the people that are on the boards that are basically volunteers, and it covers your key employees as well. And the penalties across the board are different. If an employee violates the ethics law because they don't fill out the form, let's say that's what they don't want to do, fill out the form, well, you can fire them because it's part of their employment. But if an elected official doesn't fill out the form, what do? And you have to have that procedure in there. You all could remove somebody from an appointed board because you all are the ultimate person, and there's still hearings and notice and constitutional rights that would have to go into the actual removal of it. But you need to come up with what happens if the top tier people, you all, don't do something right, or your people after you, or the people that are running for office, because there is no appeal, there's nobody to go to. Employees and committee people, we could kind of figure that out, but you all are a little more difficult to deal with. So we can work something out, and what I kind of envisioned while you were saying that, Mayor, was I'd kind of write you a little memo with a category and say, here's the things that you could do, and here's what you'd have to do that.
Well, I'm sure there are jurisdictions that have this all figured out for us. I don't know that we have to reinvent the wheel on any of this, but
Right.
maybe if we did some research and come up, with some of the ideas that some of the other jurisdictions have, we could put something in place that might mean something. Now, we're all very ethical people. Now, get me wrong, there's no idea that I have that we're not. But it's getting a lot of attention, a lot of play, and it's something that I think we as elected officials should be in the forefront and making sure that we operate as ethically as possible. So I think we need some kind of instruction in our code book to tell us what to do.
I'll give you some ideas, and one of the other things I'll throw out now, because I'm going to put it in the memo I write you, is that our ethics requirements are the same as the states, okay? So that's easy. But our Ethics Commission, the forms that you all got to fill out are as watered down as they get, okay? And that was because everybody was really anti doing the ethics law, so it was very watered down. And with watered down, there's lots of interpretations. You see, some places have very clear, distinct things that you have to put in there, and there's no room for interpretation. And that makes it easy to imply a penalty when you don't do it. So you have to maybe think of both hands here of this is the penalty, but we may have to actually require, if you want more information, or tell the Ethics Committee, look at some other places' forms that require more detail, because ours are pretty general. Did you check all the boxes right? And if you didn't, what do you do? So yeah, I can work on that, and there's plenty of towns out there, and that the state has the same situation. So.
And on the felony bit, does that read that in order to be able to be a candidate, you must do this, this, and this, right?
I believe that's, yeah, from memory. Mm-hmm.
Could the person in office decide that, well, I won't run again, but I'm going to finish out my term?
No. I mean, if our code doesn't specifically say the felony and you want that, we can amend.
No, I mean.
But I mean, let's say that's there. If you are, and I had a client, one of your brethren out there in another town, who was found guilty of a felony during their term and was removed by the council. And that's always going to be the case. It will never be an automatic removal unless it's decreed by the court, okay? So I think the most high-profile case is Sheila Dixon in Baltimore City. She was sitting mayor. She was charged with a felony. She was found guilty of the felony, and she was still mayor until she was actually adjudicated and sentenced, and then she was removed from office. If you, getting to the sentencing part, that could be, 9 months from the time you're found guilty, and you're still in office. So a lot of towns now have it so that during that time period, you all have a hearing, testimony, notice, and at the end, you vote to disqualify the person. So that can happen, but it's not automatic, and it would be, yes, if you cannot serve out your term if you get convicted of a felony during your term. So.
Could they take us to court?
Yeah, they could. I mean, they certainly could take us to court, but that would be a loser for them. So once the judge slams the gavel down. There was also some amendment to the Maryland Constitution that we all voted on maybe 2 elections ago, maybe last election, but it was something to deal with this that happened as well. So yeah, I'll find all that out for you.
Another outgrowth of, I think, the same type of thing. I noticed that Westminster has a campaign finance reporting law. Do you think it's time we do it?
Absolutely.
In the past, the elections were pretty much paid for by the candidates. I think that is changing. I think we may have to work on a campaign finance and reporting.
Those are easy. When you talk about reinventing the wheel, they're there. They're already there. I drafted one for a different client that's even smaller than your town, and the ethics board in that town is the one that reviews campaign finance, but that wouldn't have to be. And it's filing period, just like you would run for state office, filing periods for certain things, and it basically is public so that everybody can see who's paying for what. And so that's easier to do than the ethics, because the ethics is more of a blazing a trail.
Jay, I was stunned when I ran for office that I didn't have to have a treasurer, because always before we had to have a treasurer, and there was always a waiver that if you spent less than $500 or $300, you didn't have to have any reporting requirements, but amounts over that were required to be filed. There was a conflict, smarmy attack was made in the Ethics Commission against my filing. I had to defend that with an attorney. I added up the staff time. About $10,000 of town money was spent to keep me off the ballot. And then I was taken illegally before the Elections Committee, which had no jurisdiction to take me off the ballot. And I think it's something that should be codified. So, Mayor, I think it would be a good idea if we could have some law or some written policy. I think you're right about the study group you saw at MML, that we actually have some things in writing so a person can actually.
Very good.
I couldn't come I couldn't say that's wrong behavior because there's nothing in writing about it.
Well, that's good. I think we're all in agreement then. All right, anybody have anything from the community for us tonight? Marvin?
I'd like to comment to Councilman Fraser on the parking issue. Ever since I've been in town, I've been a thorn in the council's side about parking regulations and the lack of enforcement. But now, that has nothing to do with businesses leaving downtown Taneytown. I can come out of my house 20 times a day, and sometimes there's not a car parked from the light to the railroad track. I've seen it many times. If there is, there's only 2 or 3. So the businesses leaving has nothing to do with lack of parking. What has happened over the years, you take a mall, they have anchor stores, Sears, Macy's, and so forth, that draws people. So the little shops, people pass their shop. We used to have some anchor places downtown. We had a hardware store, a grocery store. We had 2 banks, which was the leading draws. People would walk the street to go to the bank. They'd walk by our businesses, and we'd all get a share of that. The banks merged, and then the final bank moved down to Randy Road, and the hardware store moved. There is no anchor place in downtown Taneytown, and I don't look to there ever being an anchor place there. You've got to have things in these stores that people want to buy, or you're going to go out of business. It's just that simple. So that's the reason there's no parking problem.
Well, I'd made a suggestion to the council before I was elected that we take out 2 of the parking meters and put 15-minute parking limits right in front of the bakery, because that's a pretty good anchor business. I'm very happy the Stonehouse Bakery downtown, and it would draw more people if you could get in and out of
The
it.
council hired a guy from Lutherville, I believe is where he's from, and gave him $12,000, $14,000 to study this and then recommend what should be done.
You need to study it, just do it.
And it amounted to 1 blue beans, not 1. The state put this road through here, and the town was enthused about how great this was going to be for business. With the town's blessing, the state screwed the parking up by screwing making a mistake on the sidewalks, which limited a certain amount of parking. There's absolutely nothing. If we spent, I don't know how much fixing this parking lot up here, and they were told that people would park up there and walk downtown. I told them it ain't gonna work. People want to park in these small businesses right in front of the shop.
You're right about that.
But they spent, now it's nice, I'm not saying it's not nice what they did, but it ain't doing what they thought it was gonna do, and they were told it wasn't gonna do that. So, no, it ain't the lack of parking that's causing this.
I appreciate your input on that.
Anyone else have any comments? Yes, sir.
So, what can we do as younger citizens to help our community?
I'm sorry.
What can we do as younger citizens to help our community?
I have a hard time hearing. I didn't hear you.
Step up to the podium, to the microphone, thank you.
All right, so what can we as younger citizens do to help our community?
What can you do to help the community?
Yes.
Well, you can do a lot of things to help the community. I see you're a scout, and I hope you're trying for a Star Merit Badge. Are you a first-class scout now?
Yes, I am first class.
Well, the Boy Scouts are a wonderful organization. Some of my best times in my youth were part of the Scouts, and I think any time that they can be visible in helping the community through community service projects, through maybe landscaping in the park or around the city's trees, or maybe a project to collect trash along the railroad right-of-way going out of town. There's any number of things that we can do. I would suggest that you maybe contact our Parks and Recreation Director, and if you have the support of the rest of your troop or some other young men that you know, I'm sure we can find some things for you to do. There's a lot of things that can be done to help beautify the town, help do things that sometimes we just don't get around to do. We know we need to get them done, but sometimes we don't get them done, and that's where you can come in.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'd
Thanks
like
for
to
coming tonight.
Speak to that. I'm the liaison for Parks and Recs, and we have a meeting on Wednesdays, and after the meeting, I'll tell you when it is. Those meetings are really good because a lot of people work together to keep the fields in shape. They're aware of drainage problems and things that are going on. Also, they lobby the Carroll County Public School System to keep the public school parks that are inside town limits in better condition because sometimes they're neglected. So I think attending one of those meetings would be a good way to pick a project if you were looking to do that one or get involved. These are volunteer people that work in Parks and Recs, and we're asking for help. And so at the last meeting, so after the meeting, I'd be happy to just touch base with you about that if that's okay.
All right, cool, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Hearing nothing, I would like to entertain a motion for adjournment. Anyone like to make that motion?
I make a motion to adjourn and move to closed session to discuss the Red Tulip Court.
Second.
All right. So moved and second that we adjourn this meeting and reconvene in executive session, let's say at 8:30, to discuss the matter with our lawyer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Carried unanimously.